What was that word? Ironic that it was hard to say. One more time, because I forgot to do the arm thing. But this book... That is not the first book I read. Don't know why I got mixed up there, but I told you to shut up. Great. Hey fellow fiction fanatics, I'm Chase. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my monthly wrap-up for April. I was able to read 4 books this month, so let's get into it. The first book I was able to read was Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. This is Trevor Noah's story about his life growing up during and after apartheid, and it's essentially a love letter to his mom. This book was impactful, educational, sweet, funny, and tear-provoking, all at the same time. There are a few things I think you should be aware of going in. So this book is not linear. This is more grouped into different topics, so he's like, here's some stories that relate to this topic that happened throughout my childhood, and then he'll move on to this topic that has all these different stories. Because of this, it jumps around to different parts of his childhood, but just it's more like topic by topic rather than sequential. This is not a memoir, it's more a story about his childhood rather than his life, and it definitely gets intense towards the end. I'm not giving this book a star rating because it is the story of his life and his childhood, but I would highly recommend picking this up. I thought it was very well done, and I really enjoyed reading this. And this completed my challenge to read an ebook. And the next book I was able to read is The Tower of Nero, which is the 5th and final book in the Trials of Apollo series by Rick Riordan. In this book, Apollo must face the evil Emperor Nero and his arch nemesis, Python. I love this book. It was absolutely hilarious. There was so much at stake, even more than you realize. It was incredible. I loved seeing all my favorite characters and meeting all these new characters throughout the series who have found a place in my heart. And Apollo's character development is through the roof. I love seeing how much he changed because he goes from just being this cocky, arrogant god who sees himself as better than everyone else to feeling for humanity. Not even sure he really wants to be a god again. It was just a huge jump, and I really appreciated seeing that. I thought it was so well done. And this was such a fantastic way to end the series and wrap up the Percy Jackson world. I thought it wrapped up perfectly, and I just loved every minute of this. So thanks to The Burning Maze, you know what you did. It took me forever to actually get to this book. I just kind of don't know what to do since I don't have a Rick Riordan book that I'm eagerly anticipating. But I'm sure he's gonna write more things in the future. I'm really hoping he writes something about Sally. That'd be great, but it's probably not gonna happen. But I would love if it did. I guess I'll just have to move on to the Rick Riordan Presents for now. Which, for those who don't know, those books are not written by Rick Riordan. They basically have his stamp of approval. So I am looking forward to reading those, and hopefully that can fill my need for Rick Riordan until he writes another book. So if you haven't guessed, I gave this book 5 stars, and it completed my challenge to read a middle grade. The next book I read is Remote Control by Nadia Okorafor. I listened to this as an audiobook, and this was read by Adjoa Ando. This book is incredibly short, so it's kind of hard to give a synopsis without spoiling the whole thing, but I'll do my best. This is the story about a girl who calls herself Sankofa because she can't remember her own name. Everyone calls her the adopted daughter of death because she has the ability to control death, meaning she can kill people in a flash. And we follow her story. I like that this was a quick read, and that's pretty much it. So I listened to the first chapter to decide if I wanted to read this book, and it seemed really interesting, but that chapter is completely different from the rest of the book. It felt very disjointed from the rest of the story, and I didn't fully understand why it was even there. I had no idea what time period this was. I thought her ability allowed her to live for a really long time and that we were seeing the past up until the present day, and this is set in the future. Did not know that till way later into the book, and so I was very confused by that. I'm gonna go into some spoilery stuff now because I just need to talk about them because I don't understand them. Okay, so Sankofa is trying to find this seed, and she's searching for it for years and years and is following this feeling she has that is pulling her towards it, and she has to find it. And then as soon as she kills the guy who started this whole thing and finally has the opportunity to actually find the seed because it's no longer going to be moving around, she goes the other direction? Why would she turn away when she was so close to finding it? I was just confused whether she wanted the seed or not, because she'd been searching and searching for it, and she turns away from it. But when it like comes to her again, she like has to have it. But when she found it, it only brought her pain. It didn't make sense to me at all. First of all, she can't touch technology or else it just stops working. And being around a lot of people is a bad idea because she could accidentally kill them all. So why in the world would she go to Tech Town or whatever it was called? It was just a bad idea. And what was the seed thing? Was it a meteor? Was it aliens? That was never explained. Why did this happen? If you're gonna have something weird like this, please explain what the heck is going on. I just didn't get it. So for all these reasons, I'm giving this book 2 stars. It just wasn't that good. So I wouldn't recommend. But this book did help me complete my author pronunciation challenge. And the 4th and final book I was able to read this month was Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston. This is the 3rd book in the Once Upon a Con series. I originally thought these were companion books, but this book has made me realize that they are very much a series. They each have different main characters, but it's best to read them in sequential order. So in this book, we follow Rosie, who meets a mysterious General Zod cosplayer at Excelsior Con, who unbeknownst to her is Vance Rain, who actually plays the villain, General Zod, in the new Starfield movie. After a tabloid scandal, Vance is sent to this small town while everything cools off. Rosie and Vance's paths collide when she accidentally destroys a rare book and has to work off her debt. But neither character can stand one another. This is a modern Beauty and the Beast retelling and has nods to the Disney movie along the way. It's definitely its own. There's no curse. Rosie's in high school. She's not trapped. She can leave whenever she likes. Rosie's friends are fantastic and they all support one another. Her dad is great and very involved in the story. This definitely has a slow burn, which I loved, and I was very glad that Rosie didn't forgive Vance right away for being a jerk. I wish Vance had helped Rosie sooner. They're supposed to be organizing this library together, and it takes him far too long to do anything to help, and I just felt like he should have maybe gone little by little a lot sooner. Even when he did help, it's not like he did a ton, so I wish I would have seen him actually help finish the project. I think Excelsior Con is great, and the concept of Starfield is really cool, but I don't understand the plot of Starfield, especially surrounding Amara. It just felt really disjointed to me. I'm confused. Does she sacrifice herself, or does she come back from the dead, or is there like an alternate world in the Black Nebula? I just don't get it. So is she falling for Carminder or Sond? Is she a spy? Is she like undercover? All this is really unclear, and it makes it feel really haphazard and just not fully fleshed out. So for these reasons, I'm giving this book 3.5 stars. If I was gonna rate the series, I'd say The Princess and the Fangirl is definitely the weakest. It's probably more like 2 stars for me. Maybe rounded up to 3 because I did like the ending of that one. And Geekerella by far is my favorite of the 3, and I definitely would give that one 5 stars. So that's how I would rate these books. And this book helped me complete my challenge to read a book with an animal on the cover. And yes, the animal is involved within the story, which is something I definitely like about these books. So those are all the books I was able to read in April. Let me know which books you were able to read, and if you read any of these, I'd love to know what you thought of them. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to share the love. I'll see you next time. Bye!